Tim McGraw, the legendary country singer, appeared on The Kelly Clarkson Show with high expectations. Fans were eager to hear about his latest album and his family life with wife Faith Hill. What was supposed to be a light-hearted segment quickly escalated into a heated argument that left Kelly Clarkson visibly emotional. What began as a conversation about his music turned into a raw and uncomfortable confrontation, catching viewers off guard. The interview began smoothly, with Kelly asking Tim about his new album and his experiences on tour. Tim shared his excitement, discussing his creative process and how his family plays a crucial role in his music. However, the tone shifted when Kelly brought up some personal topics related to his past, which seemed to stir something deeper within Tim. Kelly, known for her candidness, pressed Tim on the evolution of his career, asking how he navigated the ups and downs of fame. As the conversation delved into more personal aspects of his life, Tim began to look uncomfortable, his smile fading. Fans watching at home could sense the change in energy, as Kelly's questions got more probing, and Tim's responses became shorter. The turning point came when Kelly, in an attempt to draw a deeper connection with Tim, asked about the struggles he faced growing up. She referenced his childhood, specifically the challenges of growing up in a famous family. Tim, visibly uncomfortable, gave a terse response and quickly changed the subject. Kelly, perhaps sensing some tension, continued pressing, which only made things worse. The argument escalated when Kelly began to question Tim's perspective and the pressure of fame. Her line of questioning seemed to touch a nerve, and Tim's frustration began to show. What started as a light conversation now had a distinct edge to it. The tension between them was palpable, and the audience could feel that the mood had dramatically shifted. Tim, who was usually known for his calm demeanor, snapped back at Kelly, saying he didn't appreciate the insinuations. He told her that her questions seemed to undermine the struggles he had overcome and that it felt like an attack on his character. Kelly, visibly taken aback, tried to calm the situation, but the damage had already been done. Kelly, always the professional, attempted to steer the conversation back to a lighter topic, but Tim's body language and tone had already signaled that something deeper was happening. Her attempts to smooth things over fell flat as the tension between the two stars became increasingly evident. Fans in the audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure of how to react. As the confrontation continued, Kelly's composure began to slip. Her voice wavered as she tried to explain that she wasn't trying to hurt Tim, but the damage was already done. Tim, still visibly upset, made it clear that he didn't want to continue discussing the topic. Kelly, frustrated and on the verge of tears, took a moment to compose herself before continuing with the interview. The emotional tension reached its peak when Kelly, trying to regain control of the situation, accidentally made a comment that pushed Tim further. He responded sharply, and Kelly, unable to hold back her emotions, started to tear up. The interview had gone from a fun, light conversation to an emotional confrontation in a matter of moments. Tim, realizing that Kelly was beginning to cry, seemed to soften for a moment. He apologized for his harsh tone, but the damage had been done. The emotional weight of the argument hung heavily in the air. Kelly, now visibly emotional, tried to continue the conversation, but it was clear that both of them were struggling to regain their composure. The show's atmosphere shifted as Kelly took a deep breath and wiped away her tears. Tim, sensing her distress, apologized once again, though the apology felt strained. The tension between the two remained palpable, and the audience could feel the rawness of the moment. What was supposed to be a fun interview had turned into something much more complicated. The rest of the interview was tense, with awkward silences punctuating the conversation. Kelly tried to move on to lighter topics, but the emotional weight of the earlier argument lingered. Tim, for his part, seemed to pull back into himself, offering short, polite responses but no longer engaging with the warmth that had initially defined the interview. Fans watching at home were equally shocked and moved by the unfolding events. Social media exploded with reactions, as viewers expressed their surprise and sympathy for both Kelly and Tim. Some took to Twitter to comment on how difficult it must have been for Kelly to hold back her emotions, while others sympathized with Tim, understanding how personal questions could sometimes cross a line. Behind the scenes, the production team scrambled to adjust. Crew members communicated quietly, sensing the unease in the studio. Kelly, despite the emotional roller coaster of the moment, kept her professionalism intact. Even though her composure had been tested, the crew adjusted the lighting slightly to soften the atmosphere, though the emotional tension remained. When the interview finally ended, Kelly, still visibly shaken, thanked Tim for his time. She managed a polite smile, but her eyes betrayed the emotional toll the conversation had taken. Tim, in a more subdued tone, thanked Kelly in return, though the warmth that had marked the beginning of the segment was now missing. The studio audience applauded, though the claps were somewhat hesitant, acknowledging the awkwardness of the moment. After the cameras stopped rolling, Kelly took a few moments to collect herself. Tim, sensing her distress, approached her to offer a private apology. The two shared a brief, quiet conversation off-camera, where Tim expressed regret for the tension and for causing Kelly to become emotional. Kelly, ever the professional, assured him that it was fine, but it was clear that the confrontation had deeply affected both of them. Backstage, Kelly's team offered support, helping her calm down after the emotional moment. She was visibly upset but appreciated the understanding from her team. In private, she reflected on the experience, recognizing that sometimes emotions can take over, even in the most controlled environments. She was determined to learn from the incident and to ensure that future interviews would be more comfortable for both her and her guests. Tim, too, faced the fallout from the heated exchange. His publicist issued a statement expressing regret over the confrontation, explaining that Tim had been caught off guard by the questioning and that his response had been uncharacteristically harsh. The statement also acknowledged Kelly's professionalism and the unexpected emotional toll the conversation had taken. Social media continued to buzz with reactions. Fans took to Twitter, with some defending Tim for standing his ground, while others expressed their sympathy for Kelly. Many commenters noted how the interview highlighted the vulnerability of both celebrities, showing that even the most famous figures are not immune to emotional moments. Entertainment news outlets quickly picked up on the incident, analyzing the dynamics between Tim and Kelly. Experts discussed how personal topics, when brought up unexpectedly, can sometimes trigger an emotional response from guests. The incident sparked conversations about the fine line between curiosity and invasion of privacy in celebrity interviews. In the aftermath, Tim appeared in other interviews where he addressed the confrontation. He reiterated that his intention had never been to upset Kelly and that he deeply regretted causing her distress. He explained that he had been caught off guard and that he had immense respect for Kelly's work and professionalism. Kelly, in subsequent interviews, was asked about the emotional exchange with Tim. She acknowledged that the situation had been difficult but emphasized the importance of handling sensitive topics with care. She expressed understanding toward Tim, noting that sometimes celebrities are pushed to a breaking point, especially when it comes to personal questions. Fans continued to react to the confrontation, with many feeling that it humanized both Tim and Kelly. Social media was flooded with messages of support for both stars. Many fans expressed admiration for how Kelly had handled the emotional situation, while others commended Tim for taking responsibility for his actions. In the weeks following the incident, both Tim and Kelly continued to navigate the fallout. Tim focused on promoting his latest album, while Kelly carried on with her show, making a conscious effort to be more mindful of the questions she asked. The incident served as a reminder of the responsibility talk show hosts have in creating a safe and respectful space for their guests. The incident became a talking point in discussions about celebrity interviews, with many noting that emotions can run high even in the most controlled environments. The confrontation between Tim and Kelly showed that, while live television can be entertaining, it can also be emotionally taxing for both hosts and guests. Fans who had witnessed the emotional exchange began to reflect on the nature of celebrity interviews, questioning the extent to which personal boundaries should be respected. Some expressed disappointment that certain topics were pushed, while others understood the need for hosts to dig deeper into the lives of their guests. In the aftermath, Kelly shared a heartfelt message on social media, thanking her fans for their support and reminding them that interviews can sometimes take unexpected turns. She reiterated that her goal was always to create an open and honest space for her guests, but she understood that sometimes emotions can run deeper than anticipated. Tim, on the other hand, took a quieter approach to the situation, continuing to focus on his music and his family. He acknowledged that the interview had been difficult for both him and Kelly but expressed gratitude for the opportunity to address the situation and clear the air. His fans rallied behind him, offering support and understanding. In the long run, both Tim McGraw and Kelly Clarkson emerged from the confrontation with a greater appreciation for the complexities of live television. The emotional exchange served as a reminder of the power of words and the vulnerability of even the most successful public figures. The interview, though tense and emotional, ultimately became a defining moment in both Tim and Kelly's careers. It highlighted the importance of respecting personal boundaries while maintaining a professional environment. For the viewers, it was a rare glimpse into the emotional realities of celebrity life, reminding everyone that even stars are not immune to vulnerability. After the emotional fallout from the interview, both Tim and Kelly took some time to reflect on the incident. Tim privately acknowledged that while the heated moment had been a shock, it had also provided a valuable lesson in how to handle sensitive topics during public appearances. He knew that his fans and colleagues would understand, as long as he took responsibility for his actions. In an effort to repair any damage to his public image, Tim released a heartfelt message on social media, where he expressed regret over the confrontation and apologized to Kelly for making her feel uncomfortable. He also thanked her for her professionalism throughout the exchange. His followers reacted positively, praising his humility in the face of such a difficult situation. Kelly, too, took to social media, thanking fans for their understanding and support. In her post, she reflected on how live interviews can sometimes push people to their emotional limits, but she also emphasized that it was important to learn from these moments. She expressed gratitude to Tim for his apology and promised that future interviews would focus on creating a more comfortable atmosphere for all her guests. The media quickly picked up on the story, with both entertainment outlets and news programs analyzing the confrontation. Experts weighed in on how personal topics can unexpectedly trigger emotional responses in celebrities, especially when the subject matter is tied to painful memories or past struggles. The incident became a case study on how interviewers and guests must navigate sensitive territory with care. Over the next few days, both Tim and Kelly appeared on various platforms, addressing the situation with grace and professionalism. They both emphasized that emotions had gotten the best of them during the interview, but they had learned valuable lessons about communication and respect. Their mutual understanding only helped to strengthen their public image, with both of them gaining admiration for their ability to handle a tough situation. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Kelly's team made adjustments to their interview protocols. They discussed ways to balance curiosity with respect for their guests' boundaries. Kelly was determined to avoid similar confrontations in the future by preparing more thoroughly for interviews and being more mindful of her guests' emotional states. Tim's team also took steps to address the public fallout. They made sure that Tim's interactions with the media were framed in a way that highlighted his professionalism and sincerity. The goal was to remind the public that Tim was a man of integrity who would not shy away from taking responsibility for his actions, even when emotions ran high. As the days passed, the tension around the confrontation began to subside. Fans of both Tim and Kelly flooded social media with messages of support. Many commended them for being open about the emotional exchange, as it made them feel more connected to the celebrities they admired. It was a rare opportunity for fans to see behind the polished, public personas and witness the human side of their favorite stars. Media outlets, eager to capitalize on the story, began speculating about what could have caused such an intense argument between Tim and Kelly. Some suggested that Kelly's line of questioning was too personal, while others hypothesized that Tim might have been dealing with other stressors that contributed to his emotional response. Regardless of the reasons, the confrontation sparked much-needed conversations about the pressures of being a public figure. The event also sparked debates on talk show formats, with some viewers calling for more boundaries between personal questions and public interviews. Fans argued that it was important for celebrities to feel safe during interviews and that hosts should be mindful of the emotional toll certain questions could have. Others defended Kelly, believing she was simply doing her job as a host and trying to get the most out of her guest. As the weeks went on, Tim continued to promote his latest album, and Kelly's show maintained its momentum. However, the tension of their on-air confrontation remained a point of discussion among fans and critics alike. Many people viewed the incident as a turning point in the way celebrity interviews are conducted, with a greater emphasis on emotional intelligence and respect for personal boundaries. In a follow-up interview with another celebrity, Kelly was asked about her emotional reaction to Tim's comments. She was candid, admitting that the confrontation had been difficult, but she also expressed relief that it had been addressed openly. She emphasized that the incident had taught her the importance of being even more aware of the emotional climate during interviews, especially with high-profile guests. Tim also spoke out in future interviews, reflecting on the role of vulnerability in his music and personal life. He acknowledged that his reaction during the Kelly Clarkson Show interview was not typical for him, but it had shown him how important it is to communicate openly with the people around him, whether in private or in public. His honesty resonated with many fans, who appreciated his willingness to admit that even stars are not immune to emotional struggles. As both celebrities continued their respective careers, the emotional exchange between Tim and Kelly became a defining moment in their journeys. Fans often cited the confrontation as a moment when both stars showed their true colors, so Tim's vulnerability and Kelly's professionalism. It was a stark reminder that even the most polished public figures have moments of raw emotion. Entertainment critics lauded both stars for handling the aftermath of the incident with grace. The incident was seen as a textbook example of how to navigate a controversial situation with dignity and humility. The lasting impression was not one of conflict, but of two professionals who were willing to learn from their mistakes and grow in the public eye. For Kelly, the experience reinforced her commitment to fostering a safe and supportive environment for her guests. She reflected on how her show had always been about creating an honest, open space, but that sometimes those spaces could lead to difficult conversations. She was determined to be more attuned to her guests' emotional boundaries in the future. Tim, in his interviews, discussed how his childhood struggles and the pressures of fame shaped his perspective on personal boundaries. He shared that he had always been open about his experiences in interviews, but that he had learned the hard way that not every conversation should be forced into a box. He continued to promote his album while also encouraging his fans to listen to the emotional depth of his music. In the wake of the argument, both Tim and Kelly saw an outpouring of support from fans and peers. Many people shared their own stories of feeling emotionally overwhelmed in public settings, making the incident relatable for a wide audience. The emotional honesty displayed by both celebrities gave many viewers a new perspective on the pressures of fame and public life. The event eventually became a pivotal moment in both Tim and Kelly's careers, symbolizing how even the most composed individuals can have emotional outbursts. The lesson, however, was clear: vulnerability, when handled with care, can lead to stronger connections and understanding, both on and off the screen. As time passed, the confrontation faded from the public's memory, but its impact remained. The incident became a reference point in media training and celebrity culture discussions. Tim and Kelly's honest handling of the situation set a new standard for how emotional moments should be dealt with in the world of entertainment. Over time, both stars moved on from the incident, continuing with their careers, but the exchange would remain a key moment in their professional journeys. It was a reminder that even in the world of entertainment, emotions are real, and personal boundaries should always be respected, no matter how famous or successful one may be. Kelly's show continued to thrive, with the host using her experience to become even more empathetic towards her guests. She gained a deeper understanding of the balance between pushing for a great interview and respecting the limits of her guests' comfort. For Tim, the moment became a powerful reminder of the value of emotional authenticity. His fans appreciated his candidness and resilience, and he often reflected on the way the interview had challenged him to grow as both an artist and a person. The story of the heated argument became a frequent topic of conversation among talk show hosts, with many using it as an example of how to handle emotionally charged moments with care. It sparked broader discussions about the role of emotions in celebrity interviews and how the industry might evolve in response. Months later, Both Tim and Kelly looked back on the incident with a sense of gratitude. While the moment had been uncomfortable, it had sparked meaningful conversations about mental health, emotional intelligence, and the importance of boundaries in professional settings. Fans continued to show support for both stars, sharing messages of encouragement and empathy. Many expressed admiration for how they had navigated such a difficult situation, using the moment as a reminder of the humanity behind the public personas of celebrities. As the year came to a close, Tim and Kelly's emotional exchange remained a poignant reminder of the pressures of fame. The incident was not seen as a stain on their careers but as a symbol of their willingness to be vulnerable in an industry that often demands perfection. The episode marked a new chapter for both Tim McGraw and Kelly Clarkson. They had shown the world that even in moments of conflict, there is room for growth, empathy, and understanding. And in doing so, they set an example for others in the industry to follow. The interview between Tim and Kelly became a topic of study in journalism and media courses, as experts pointed to it as a case study in managing delicate interviews. It showed that when handled correctly, even the most difficult moments can lead to positive change and deeper understanding. In the end, Tim McGraw and Kelly Clarkson emerged from the emotional confrontation stronger than before, having learned from the experience and becoming better versions of themselves. Their fans respected them even more, understanding that true strength lies in embracing vulnerability and handling adversity with grace.